Grab the soda of your choice and roll for initiative, because today we're taking a look at and ranking every single LEGO Dungeons & Dragons CMF minifigure.
I have a Mountain Dew! Yes, you can have a Mountain Dew, just go get it!
The next LEGO lore video I'm working on had to be put on hold for a little bit, and I was also lucky enough to find these D&D figures a little bit early, so this is what we're doing today. I actually found these figures too early for anybody to put codes up online. I did find a set of codes, but none of them matched the boxes I'd found, so I ended up just making sure I had one of each code. If you're interested in using the codes I found as a reference for your own CMF hunting, the complete list is in the description. Now, before we jump into this list, just remember that I'm ranking them based off my own personal preferences, and I would absolutely love to hear which figure is your favorite. I actually found it really difficult to rank these figures as a castle fan, a tabletop RPG fan, and a general fantasy fan. I had really high expectations for these figures, and they were exceeded. I do also want to note that I've been playing D&D longer than I'd like to admit. However, the overwhelming majority of Dungeons & Dragons I've actually played has been homebrew. So just as a heads up, I'm not super familiar with some of the named villains and other things in this series. However, there's a ton of lore resources on YouTube. You can go watch some great videos about the different characters here. Now that that's all out of the way, let's delay the actual ranking of these figures further and take a look at the awesome printing on these stands. So some of the series, I believe, starting with LEGO Batman Series 2, and then every so often we get some printing on the actual bases, and I was actually surprised to see this series has that printing. There's the stone patchwork here to represent maybe the base of a dungeon or the cobblestone of a castle, and as D&D figures, I think it's very fitting that they have little terrained bases. Now, finally getting into the list, at number 12, we have the Elf Bard. And although this figure is at the bottom of the list, I still love it. I'm fairly certain that this hairpiece is a new unique mold with the elf ears, and if it's not unique, the white certainly is unique to it. Also, another big plus for me is the color scheme of the magenta and the turquoise here. The hood scarf thing is really cool too. I believe we've gotten it before from Lego Movie 2, but never in this color. It has a couple different expressions on each head. There is a female and male head for this figure, which I think that's a great thing that they do for the D&D figures themselves. That makes these more customizable and feel more like Dungeons & Dragons minis. And for this figure, both the male and female heads have kind of the same expressions, a singing, closed eyes look, and a smirking smile. I think the detail and printing is really great. All the pieces here in every one of these figures are going to be great for castle customizing or D&D customizing now. So one of the accessories is a golden sword. We've seen this before with the pirate captain from Series 8. So the sword is just a nice little addition. The other accessory I like a lot more is the loot. It's the same loot mold as included with the Series 22 Bard, but it is more detailed, and it actually matches a lot of the detail on the minifigure's torso. One of the things I really like about it too is it reminds me of Dandelion from The Witcher. Not necessarily that Dandelion wore an outfit like this, but the bright colors and intricate patterns really remind me of that character. So overall, it's a really great figure. The reason it's at the bottom of the list is because I feel like everything else has a lot more to offer. So moving on to number 11, we have the Gith Warlock. I'm actually not super familiar with the race Gith in D&D. This is another player mini that comes with two different heads, so a male version and a female version. So the printing is great on this whole series. You're going to hear me like a broken record. Like, I love the printing on every one of these figures. These are all fantastic for customizing. I really love this one because it's got some keys, some inventory items like potions, an interesting amulet, pouches, runes, everything you need for a good sorcerer time. So what's really interesting about this is it's not skin tone like the other figures. This one is yellow like a classic minifigure. What I think is really cool about this in general is we don't have a lot of elf hair pieces with the ears that are actually in yellow. There's only a couple others for fantasy elves. Every other elf with yellow ears is a Santa elf. So it's great if you want to include elves to have this other option in your general castle stuff. It is not, however, an exclusive mold to this figure. We actually got this hairpiece on the wizard from the D&D Lego set earlier this year. The shoulder pads add a little bit. I think that they're a little bit unnecessary on this figure, but it's nice to get them. One thing that is uniquely molded to this set, at least I believe it is the dagger piece. I think it looks really cool, and it would serve really well for a wolf pack or other rogue type character. Initially, when I saw this figure, I thought it was a rogue, mostly because of the knife and the dark outfit. And of course, the eye-catching accessory here is the eyeball staff. I'm not sure if they were going for a specific item in D&D. I know there's a couple different staffs that could have been the base for this, but I really love just the big, weird eyeball. It fits into D&D really well. It's a really neat addition to this figure. For number 10 on the list, we have the Dwarf Barbarian, and this figure is a must for any castle or fantasy fan, just for the torso on its own. The printing shows this battle-ready adventurer, and I love this fur trim. You've got a horn on the back, and this little axe necklace, as well as some arm printing that accentuates the fur trim. It's also got the fur neck piece. I think it looks amazing. One of my main problems with it is the fact that the legs are unprinted, and that's one of the reasons it's so low on the list. And again, this is our third figure that has two separate heads, a male and a female. For accessories, most of these figures come with one kind of generic gear piece, and then something really cool. And this one's generic piece is, of course, a torch, which is just an old telescope piece and a flame. Nice to have, but not amazing. What is amazing is this new axe mold. I think it looks and feels better than the clip-on axe heads that we've gotten for a long time. And this axe itself is a must-have for any armory as well. Next up, for number 9, we have the Witch. I believe it's a specific witch from D&D. This is the one I'm least familiar with. It seems like she goes by several names, one being Tasha the Witch Queen. I also know that it's like a Magic the Gathering card as well, so I don't know if that has any connection there. However, the figure itself is incredible. The dual molded hair and hat is not unique to this figure. It's from Hocus Pocus. However, this one is done with a gray hat instead of a black one. Again, the figure itself has some really great customizing potential with all the straps and belts and different robe printings and that sort of thing. Because I believe she is a specific character, she doesn't actually come with two different heads. However, she comes with two expressions, one being sort of the mischievous grin here, and then the other being a cackle face, which I think is really great for a witch. She also has a scar on her face, which I'm sure is unique to her character. Again, I don't know much about specifically this character, why she would have a scar. I think my favorite part about this figure is the strap printing on the arms. That looks really cool and could be used for some really awesome customizing in the future. Then moving on to accessories, she has a cauldron with a purple flame that you kind of just plop in there. It is just a feather or fire piece that is in translucent purple, and I think it looks really cool in the cauldron. For my favorite piece, she has a spell book, and I love Lego books. I think the book pieces for Lego are some of my favorite. I'm always disappointed when they're sticker pieces. You don't have to worry about that in the CMF line, fortunately. And this book does have printing on the front. Also, if anybody could help me to identify what spell she has on the book, it's got a big smile for the symbol for it. I think it'd look great in any witch's room or wizard's tower. If you wanted to add it to your Harry Potter sets, I think she'd fit right in. It's fairly basic when it comes to the other figures, but it does what it does really well. Next up in the number 8 spot, we have the Aarakocra Ranger. This is the best bird person they've ever made in LEGO. The wings themselves are fantastic, and they're done so much better than any other version of wings that I've seen. The main wings I remember are the brick-built ones you have to clip on, and I always felt frustrated about those. Again, I'm not 100% sure if this is brand new, although it seems like it was made just for this figure. I'm also not sure if the head mold is unique to this figure. Maybe it popped up in video or something, although I'm fairly certain it is unique to this character. One other thing that's really cool about this figure is we get the gremlin legs on him, and I think that adds to his overall bird look. One thing I really like about the torso is if you remove all the bird elements, it looks like just any ranger, so you can build a ranger around the torso of any race. And that's what's so great about this series is the customization, as well as how well the figures stand on their own. The only thing disappointing about the torso is there is no arm printing here, but there's so much new about this figure that I don't even mind. For accessories, he's got Hawkeye's new bow in the light tan color rather than black. And he's a ranger, so he gets an animal companion. A Chihuahua. Just kidding, it's not a Chihuahua. I'm pretty sure it's a wolf puppy. Although when I looked at it, I was certain it was a Chihuahua. It is in fact the same mold as the German Shepherd puppy. I think it's fun that this bird has a little companion. It feels very Dungeons and Dragons to me, especially when you play the game and people are doing silly things and you can be whatever you want. You can be a bird person with a bow and an arrow and a puppy. So this figure is really fun and encapsulates a lot of the entertainment of Dungeons and Dragons for me. And then in number 7, we have the Halfling Druid. First of all, just look at how beautiful that hood piece is. And connected with the cape, it's just perfect. Now, the cape itself is a stiff fabric, more like what we used to have for superheroes. But it is brown on the inside and green on the outside. So that just looks incredible. And on the torso, he's got like a tooth necklace, some bags, and he's just got a great color palette to show that he's a druid and at one with nature. As far as accessories goes, he has I don't want to say lackluster, but very simple staff with leaves and a flower on it. I don't think it needs to be changed because it accomplishes its goal really well with just a few simple pieces. The other accessory he comes with is a small bird, this time in brown. This is the first time we've ever gotten it brown. I think we've only had it in blue, red, and white so far. Plus it's got a little print on the head. Also, as a side note, it goes really well with Radagast from The Hobbit. The Druid also does come with 2 heads as well, one male, one female. These have 2 pretty different expressions. Not super different. It goes for kind of the same emotion. The male head smiles and the female head is winking with her smile. I think that's an interesting variety to add as well. Next up in our middle spot for number 6 is the Vampire Lord Strahd von Zarovich. This is another figure I had a hard time putting so low on the list just because of how good it is. But putting him against the other characters later on this list, he lacks a little bit more of that uniqueness than they have. And this is an amazing figure that they've done. If you're not very familiar with Strahd, I suggest going and watching some videos on him and some different lore and stuff. And I think they did a really good job, especially in the face printing, to show he is a vampire, he's a monster, but also they capture that character as well. He's not just a vampire, he's Strahd. And it's just so cool to get him here because he is an original D&D bad guy. Looking at the torso and legs, he's just got such ornate royal printing with highlights of armor and fur. He also comes with a blue cape, which again isn't cloth, it's more of the stiff fabric. For the accessories, he comes with a crystal goblet, presumably to drink blood out of, as well as the Tournament Knight's sword. And for his last accessory, he comes with this awesome rat that comes for the first time in black. It also has red eyes to show its connection to its vampire master. I'm assuming the rat was included here because vampires in Dungeons & Dragons can summon or sometimes turn into rats. So that's a pretty cool addition. Moving on to our top 5. At number 5 is the Mind Flayer. I mean, just look at that head. It oozes malice and contempt. It's got long tentacles. It's a really interesting and cool shape. What's not to love about it? Not to mention the body is perfect for any necromancer or bad guy you want to throw into your castle setting. And although the figure is so cool on its own, what really bumps it up this high on the list is the intellect devourer that comes with it. This is such a neat piece, and the best part is you can put it on any minifigure's head to make it devour their intellect. Such an interesting and unique piece. Little brain running around being a monster. It's such a cool thing to include in this series. Moving on to our number 4 spot, we have the Tiefling Sorcerer. I love the deep purple and orange color choices here. All the figures really have a nice color palette about them. They all look really good on their own and together. But there's just something about this purple and orange with gold highlights that just looks so good. This one again does come with a male and female headpieces. The hairpiece might be my favorite of the series just because those horns look incredible on this figure. And the figure also has an orange avatar tail to give it more of that demonic tiefling vibe. And then what puts this so high on the list for me is, in fact, the accessories it comes with. Look at this magic piece. This is so cool. I could just imagine it being used for something like Gambit from the X-Men, as well as being recolored for other magical things like Ray of Frost. It's such a cool translucent pinkish purple piece. And yes, the main thing that does throw this figure way higher on the list than it would have otherwise is the baby dragon. This is the coolest baby dragon they have ever made. Just the tiny detailing on it. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, this would look really cool on a micro castle mock. This is by far my favorite accessory that comes with any of these figures. Look at how adorable and fierce this little guy looks. He's just incredible. And at number 3, we have Lady of Pain. This helmet mask piece is one of my favorite pieces in this series. The printing on the torso and legs just makes her look so interesting and mysterious. I also love this new cape design that's split in the back and flows past her body and goes down onto this translucent piece that's showing her floating around. Also, one of the coolest parts about this figure to me is underneath the mask, she has just a plain black head. And I think that's a really cool detail just because of how mysterious and unknowable as an entity she is. I'm not exactly sure what her accessory is, although I'm pretty sure it depicts the magic city of Sigil, as it does sit on top of a mountain. And at the number 2 spot, we have one of my favorite villains of all time for D&D. It's Zast Ham. Lore-wise, I really love the Red Wizards of Thay. I think they're some of the most interesting bad guys you can have in D&D because they are lawful evil and they can do all these crazy magics and they don't have reservations. And they can all be unique. You know, they could be upset with Zast Tam, they could serve Zast Tam. You could have Zast Tam himself as this big major lich. You can fight all these hordes of undead and monsters. And it's just so cool that they're featuring him here as a minifigure, especially after the D&D movie. I think the detail on the face, torso, and legs are perfect for this character. It's not overdoing it, but it really captures that feel of this evil undead lich. The cape that he comes with is again the stiff fabric, but it comes in this deep red, and it complements the red of his torso and skirt piece really well. As far as accessory goes, he comes with kind of this magic swoosh that we see a lot in Marvel Lego sets these days. One of my favorite accessories that come in this line. Not as good as the dragon, but there's this translucent red skull. I'm just really a sucker for different versions of the skull head, so this one is an incredible piece to add to that collection. However, I don't know what it does. If anyone watching knows exactly what this is referencing, please let me know in the comments. I would love to learn more about the lore behind this red skull. And just taking a minute to appreciate him, he encompasses a lot of what I like about bad guys. I'm a big fan of wizards and necromancers and evil minifigures, just because I think it's interesting that LEGO makes them and they're touching on such a dark topic, and especially having an official minifigure of Zast Ham where he's just this pure evil monster that has done so many horrifying things. I just really have a soft spot for minifigures that do that. And now moving on to my number one pick of this series, it is the Dragonborn Paladin. This figure is everything I want in a Dungeons & Dragons fantasy castle figure. It has incredible knight armor. It has a new shield piece. It has a new mace piece. The only way that I would like this figure more is if it came with some kind of helmet, but I know that that's not really possible for the Dragonborn. Its head is the same mold as from the LEGO set earlier this year from the Dragonborn Bard, and the first time this head mold appeared was in a video LEGO set. I'm glad they're getting something out of that theme. Although this one is my favorite because it comes in this awesome pearl gold. And this new armor piece is fully printed. What I think is really cool about this armor in general, it looks like the older armor piece combined with the newer shoulder armor piece from the blacksmith shop. And it just looks so good on him. Not to mention underneath, he's also got amazing printing that looks like to be a surcoat. The armor itself has some really cool layering. You can see chainmail and other different pieces of armor all coming together to protect him. They went the extra mile by printing the sides of his legs and his arms. And with his accessories, I love this dragon shield piece they have in this bright blue and white. I think you could base a whole faction off of this shield. The mace head is also a unique piece. It looks so incredible, and I'm really upset that Sauron's figure did not come with this mace head piece, because this would be perfect for Sauron. Hopefully someday they release this in a gunmetal gray, and we can put that on the Sauron figure. Overall, this figure really encapsulates everything I love about Castle and Dungeons & Dragons and fantasy. It's a shining example of why I love these things so much. And just looking at it, I know I'm going to need to buy a few more of these guys just to make different customized characters. And with that, it draws my ranking of every LEGO Dungeons & Dragons CMF figure to a close. Like I said, it was difficult to place these in any kind of order because they're just all so good. This is one of those few CMF series that every character really shines. The designers went above and beyond with these figures, and the customization possibilities for this series are incredible, and my mind's just been spinning ever since I've held these figures in my hand. I do have a ton of plans for these figures and any more I may get in the future. As someone who plays a lot of homebrew Dungeons & Dragons, I am working on my own LEGO campaign that's loosely based on the one that came with the Dungeons & Dragons set earlier this year. I'm utilizing that location and characters, but also expanding it with other modified sets and mock locations. Let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in seeing any of the NPCs or builds I'm doing for that campaign, or if there's any interest in seeing that campaign play out itself. Whatever the case may be, let me know what you think of these Dungeons & Dragons figures in the comment. I want to know which one's your favorite. I want to know how you're going to be playing Dungeons & Dragons with LEGO now. I want to know what you're building with them. I want to know where you're putting them. These are such cool figures, and I'm excited to hear how everybody else is going to create with them, because there's just such great possibilities for building really cool stories. And with all that being said, thank you for watching this far. Stay tuned for the next lore video. It'll be out very soon, and we'll see everybody there.